The ring wasn't even meant for her. It slipped out of my trembling fingers, rolled across the polished office floor, and stopped right at her feet, as if fate itself had placed it there. She looked down at it, then at me. And before I could even breathe, before I could explain that this wasn't what it looked like, before I could stop the moment from becoming something permanent, faltering and terrifying, she said yes, not hesitantly, not jokingly, but with the quiet certainty of someone who had been waiting for this moment for far longer than I had even realized it was coming. And in that instant, my carefully structured, emotionally guarded world cracked open. Before we go deeper into this story, if you enjoy emotional, real, life-inspired stories like this, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Stories Beyond the Porch. Your support helps keep these stories alive, because what happened that day didn't begin with love. It began with exhaustion, the kind that seeps into your bones and makes you question why you're running so hard for a life that never seems to slow down long enough for you to live it. I was 32, surviving on deadlines and takeout, measuring my worth in completed projects and performance reviews. My life was organized into spreadsheets and calendar reminders, with emotions tucked away like archived files, accessible, but never opened. Love, in my world, was something inefficient, something that distracted, something that had already failed me once. Years earlier, I had walked away from an engagement that had collapsed under the weight of expectations and silence. Since then, I had trained myself to believe that companionship was optional, and solitude was strength. Work became my refuge, and that was where she entered my life. She wasn't dramatic or loud or the kind of person who demanded attention when she walked into a room. She was steady, calm, present. She had joined the team quietly 6 months earlier, transferring from another branch. Her name had simply appeared in an email introduction, followed by a polite smile in the hallway the next day. She was the kind of person who remembered how you took your coffee without asking, the kind who stayed late without complaining and helped without announcing it. At first, she was just a colleague. Then she became the one person whose presence softened the edges of my worst days. We worked on the same projects, shared the same deadlines, exchanged small, ordinary moments that meant nothing on paper, but everything in memory. The late evenings when the office emptied and the silence became companionable instead of lonely. The shared frustration over impossible timelines. The mutual understanding that came from being the two people who stayed when everyone else left. But I never let myself think of her beyond that. Because thinking meant feeling, and feeling meant risk. So I stayed in my lane, convincing myself that what we had was nothing more than professional familiarity. Until the day everything unraveled. It was supposed to be a simple afternoon. I had picked up the ring during lunch, not for a proposal, but as a return. A friend had asked me to hold on to it while he navigated his own collapsing relationship. It sat in my pocket like a burden that wasn't mine, a symbol of promises I no longer believed in. That afternoon, tension filled the office. A major presentation had gone wrong, tempers were high, and mistakes were being quietly assigned to whoever seemed least likely to fight back. She had taken the blame for something that wasn't hers. I had watched it happen, watched her nod politely while criticism fell on her shoulders, watched her carry it without protest. Something in me snapped, not loudly, not dramatically, but deeply. Later, in the empty break room, she stood by the window, looking smaller than I had ever seen her. And I did something reckless. I told her she deserved better. I told her she shouldn't carry everyone else's weight. I told her she didn't have to prove her worth by enduring everything silently. My words came out clumsy, tangled with emotions I didn't fully understand. And then, As I reached into my pocket for emphasis, for nothing more than a nervous gesture, the ring slipped out. It fell, rolled, stopped at her feet. Time slowed. I bent down instinctively, but she picked it up first. She looked at it, then at me, and something changed in her expression. Hope, fear, relief, the kind of emotion that comes when something long imagined suddenly appears in front of you. And before I could say a single clarifying word, she accepted. Not with excitement, but with quiet tears that seemed to release something she had been holding for years. In that moment, I realized something terrifying. She had thought this was real. And even more terrifying, a part of me didn't want to correct her. Because in her acceptance, I saw something I had denied myself for years, the possibility that love didn't have to be dramatic to be real, that it could grow quietly in shared routines, in understanding glances, in the comfort of someone who chose to stand beside you, even when no one was watching. The days that followed were complicated, confusion, guilt, fear, but also warmth. We didn't announce anything immediately. Instead, we allowed the moment to exist between us, fragile but undeniable. And slowly, I began to see what had been there all along. Her small kindnesses, her unwavering support, the way she listened without trying to fix everything, the way she understood my silences. I learned that she had admired me long before I noticed her, that she had believed in my strength even when I hid behind indifference, that she had never expected anything, not even this. The accident that began it all became a question I could no longer ignore. Was it truly a mistake, or had something deeper guided that moment? Because love rarely arrives the way we plan. It doesn't wait for readiness. It doesn't follow logic. It finds us in ordinary spaces and unexpected seconds. And sometimes it begins with a ring dropped on a floor and an answer given from the heart. If this story is touching your heart so far, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Stories Beyond the Porch. Your engagement helps stories like this reach people who may need them most. In the end, I didn't propose by accident. I simply hadn't realized I was already in love, and she hadn't said yes to a mistake. She had said yes to a feeling that had been quietly growing between us all along. Before this story closes, if it moved you even a little, please share your thoughts below. Special request: comment the line, "Sometimes love finds us before we're ready." Because sometimes the most life-changing moments are the ones we never planned.